As leaders, we're often given news to give to our teams, and sometimes that news is not such good news. It's actually bad news, but we're charged with giving it to our teams. Let's talk about it. I'm Adrian from Adrian's Avenue, and I bring you rich, relatable, relevant information that you can use in your daily functions as a leader. Let's jump right into it. First, let's define what bad news really is. It's not just everyday news, but it's something that could be pretty devastating to the employees. News such as office closures, reduction in staff, re-interviewing for your job, eliminating departments, salary cuts, and business actually shutting down. These are all things that when you give them to the employees, they're going to ask, what about me? They're looking out for themselves, and rightfully so. So let's discuss some of the emotions that may run through their heads. As employees receive this information, there are emotions that are evoked in them, such as fear of future anticipation, a lack of security from the job, anger, sadness, denial, and sometimes even depression. These are emotions that are evoked in employees as they hear some news that may be very devastating to them. These kind of announcements can also affect your team in various ways, such as the stress level can go up, which is normally what happens, and the morale goes down. And so these are two areas that we have to make sure we look for and deal with as they happen. Now let's talk about how to deliver this bad news. The first thing you want to do is to make sure you have as large a group of your team members there as possible. You want people to hear a consistent message, and when you start breaking your team down, or if people miss the meeting, they may hear something else or get another version of the message that you're presenting. So the first thing you want to do is make sure you have as many of your team members there as possible before you deliver the bad news. The next thing I can't emphasize enough is to stick to the script. When you read what has been given to you, the message is consistent, whether you're reading it or some other supervisor is reading it. But when you start putting in your opinions of things, sometimes your team hears you more than they hear the message. So I just can't emphasize it enough. Please stick to the script. The script has facts on it. The script has the next stage of action on it. It has everything that they need, and you as a supervisor do not need to add or subtract from what everybody else is hearing. So please stick to the script. The third thing that you want to do is be as detailed as you possibly can. Give them as much information as you can, and this will avoid the employees making things up in their heads. So the script, whatever you're given, should have the details of the plan of action, what's going to happen, and the next steps. This is vitally important, but give them as much detail as you possibly can that has been given to you. After giving them detail, ask them, what did you hear me say? Ask them, how are you feeling? And let them tell you what they heard you say or how they're feeling at that point in time. Don't pressure them, don't rush them, because sometimes people have to digest this information. If it's something that's pretty devastating, such as a loss of a job or a pay cut or movement of certain people to a different area, this is something that people need to process, just as you probably as a leader was given a chance to process it. So just make sure, just see the human side of everything and ask questions, get them to talking if you can, and give them time to process the information, because it is pretty devastating probably to them if it's bad news. Before we get to the very last step, I would like for you to hit the subscribe button and the thumbs up button to make sure you're getting the latest content when it is available. Now, the last step of this process is the follow-up. There may be some people in the meeting that you can see that's taking it a little harder than some other folks. Some may look confused. You should offer as a leader to meet with folks individually if they need to discuss more with you. And then as a team in general, give them a few days and then have a follow-up meeting, because you will get out of them the rumors that's going on, and you can kind of settle it down. If you've received any additional information to that bad news, you can tell them at that point in time. but always follow up, follow up, follow up, because you never know how folks are feeling. And you want to, sometimes if you can just talk it out, if they can talk it out with you, that'll help them feel better. So make sure you follow up, and that is the final step. Well, that's it. You as a leader sometimes have to bear the bad news, not all the time, but believe me, your team will not shoot the messenger, especially if it's a company-wide decision, because they are aware that you did not make those decisions. One other thing that you can try too is to look at the good side, because there's always two sides of a story. And so make sure you're bringing out what's good about the situation and letting them know that. Also be sensitive to your team in these times, because some of them can take it very, very hard, can fall into depression. The morale may be down, stress level may be up. And these are the things that you have to make sure you keep your finger on, and so that you can help them through this. It's all in working together as a team. And just know sometimes it's on your shoulders to be the bearer of bad news as a leader, but we will lead through this.